Today I've chosen the topic called How to Respond to and Create Value to Difficult Situations. And the reason why I chose this topic is because of the present situation, the pandemic, making everybody miserable, angry, depressed, and we all have to stay home and the lockdown and so forth. So I hope today's topic will try to bring some light into everybody's life. To address this topic, I'm quoting guidance from both Nichiren Daishonin and President Ikeda as follows, quote, "We are experiencing today various kinds of challenges throughout its long history, yet it has never faced a situation in which the entire world is impacted at once, gravely threatening the lives, livelihood, and dignity of people in countries everywhere, throwing them into conditions in which they find themselves requiring urgent assistance." President Ikeda says, as of January 25th, 2021, the number of people infected with COVID-19 has surpassed 99 million. It should be much, much more by now. Of this, more than 2.12 million have died. With the world still experiencing impacts of the pandemic, I would like to explore some of the approaches that I believe are required in order to overcome this crisis. The first thematic area I would like to explore is the determination never to leave behind those struggling in the depths of adversity. When we face with an emergency, which is a large-scale disaster, we need to remind ourselves not to lose sight of this perspective. In our daily Buddhist practice, members of the SGI around the world have continued to offer heartfelt prayers for the complete eradication of COVID-19 at the earliest possible date, encouragements to those infected and affected, as well as for the peace of the deceased. Shakyamuni Buddha did not use superhuman powers to save human sufferings. Rather, he dedicated himself to offering the people he engaged the kind of words that would help them review the strength and potential already existing within their lives. The same spirit is found in the Buddhist teachings of Nichiren, who stressed the crucial importance of taking action to eliminate suffering. In one of his writings, Nichiren describes the intense suffering of the people of Japan, afflicted by one disaster after another, as follows. The 3 calamities and the 7 disasters have continued for several decades on end, and half the people have been wiped out. Those who remain are parted from their parents, their brothers and sisters, or their wives and children, and cry out in voices no less pitiful than those of autumn insects. Family after family has been scattered and destroyed like plants and trees broken down by the snow of winter. It was during an age of turmoil that Nichiren continued to offer people encouragement, seeking to eliminate a society darkened by chaos and confusion with the light of hope. He writes, "Winter always turns to spring." Through these words, Nichiren sought to convey the following message of encouragement. At present, you may be overwhelmed by despair, as if the icy winds of winter were pressing upon you. But this will not continue forever. Winter never fails to turn into spring. I urge you to live out your life with courage and strength. Since life is a series of ongoing challenges, how we respond to unexpected events is crucial. Do we accept such events as misfortune and give up? Do we try to avoid problems and wait for the time to resolve them? Do we resent our struggles and blame them on others or on our environment? Or do we confront obstacles head-on and transform them as opportunities for further growth? Nichiren Buddhism teaches that there is utmost value in the latter response. Our faith and practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo enables us to take on all hardships and challenges as the fuel for strengthening our resolve and abilities. This is why developing faith for overcoming obstacles is one of the 5 eternal guidelines of Soka Gakkai. Second President Josei Toda presented the first 3 eternal guidelines in December 1957. He wanted everyone to be clear why we practice and not to lose sight of the fundamental purpose of faith. In so doing, he wanted to ensure that everyone, without exception, would be able to establish the means for reviewing their Buddhahood and becoming absolutely happy. Here, now, is my opinion, is my understanding. Buddhahood means we have the wisdom, courage, compassion, life force, energy, good fortune. This is all revealed if we can attain Buddhahood. It's all in us. Okay, I'll go on. The purpose of our faith is to enable us to face and overcome all difficulties and challenges in life. Whether problems in daily life or challenges is in the realm of faith. The word obstacles in the face of faith for overcoming obstacles indicates anything that prevents us from advancing in our Buddhist practice and revealing our Buddhahood. Since Buddhist practice involves efforts to create our personal happiness, as well as to change society and the world, we are bound to encounter obstacles, not only on a personal level, but also on a larger scale as our movement for peace expands throughout the world. What, then, is the key to overcoming obstacles? The key is to create a winning state of life. This requires us to bring forth our strength, perseverance, wisdom, courage, conviction, composure, and to take action. It comes down to developing the life condition of a Buddha, which we call Buddhahood, to see obstacles as opportunities, as turning points for developing our best qualities as human beings and deepening our faith. As we strive with this mindset, we can develop the ability to remain unshaken and to keep fighting. Ultimately, winning means to never give up, no matter what the circumstances are. From this perspective, faith for overcoming obstacles has 2 aspects. Number 1, persevering and winning over each difficulty, and 2, growing and becoming a person of outstanding character. In addition, overcoming obstacles doesn't simply mean having everything turn out the way we planned. In Buddhism, it means challenging those things that make us suffer or sway us in faith and transforming them into sources that propel us more quickly towards our happiness and enlightenment. SGI President Ikeda explains, it is by drawing out into the open, battling and defeating the 3 obstacles and 4 devils that we ourselves can become Buddhas. The more we develop in our Buddhist practice, the more we come to see that obstacles enable us to deepen our faith and transform our karmic tendencies. And as we near the attainment of Buddhahood, Nichiren states, the 3 obstacles and 4 devils will invariably appear, and the wise will rejoice while the foolish will retreat. In the face of obstacles, let us strive to become the wise who enjoys, rising to each challenge with the conviction that we are becoming stronger, forcing an indestructible foundation of happiness and revealing our Buddhahood. When we live in this way, we are able to inspire all those around us to strive in the same way, creating waves of hope that will help advance our wonderful Kosen Rufu movement. Now, because there are some new members today, Kosen Rufu means sharing our Buddhist practice and encouraging other people to chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo so they can attain happiness. The following is also SGI President Akeda's guidance. A life without struggle and challenge, a life free from hardship and difficulty, might seem pleasant and easy. But just as a child who is never exposed to the outside air grows up to be weak and frail, a life, a spirit that is never tested or tempered cannot attain true happiness. Happiness can exist only in the hearts of a person with a strong, solid self that is able to confidently overcome anything. In that sense, being able to train and forge ourselves by facing repeated difficulties is in itself a source of happiness. And more than anything else, our Buddhist practice dedicated to the realization of Kozen Rufu, meaning spreading and propagating Nichiren Buddhism, a wonderful philosophy that helps us attain absolute happiness and perfects us into people of diamond-like happiness. I'm going to share with you an experience from a young woman division member from Melbourne in Australia, describing how she created a value out of this pandemic and the lockdown. Now I'm going to ask Chloe to read out this experience because Chloe has a sweet voice and her pronunciation is much better than mine. So Chloe, can you start sharing the experience written by this young woman?
I'll just do it on my phone.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. What strange times we find ourselves in. Who knew at the start of this year that we could be navigating a global pandemic? I found myself in a situation I never thought I would have to experience, applying for Centrelink assistance and requesting my bank to pause my mortgage payments. I had studied and worked so hard all my life, and these things seemed inconceivable in my lifetime. If I chose to lament my situation as unreasonable or unfair, who could I even blame or be angry at for my predicament? Blaming the virus or myself or someone else got me no satisfaction. It was as useful as shouting into an abyss. I decided that this was not about what was reasonable or fair, but about faith. I have been waiting to start my new business. However, there have been several setbacks in the building works, resulting in my start date being repeatedly moved from February to now July. At best, I've left my previous role in September and had only intended to be off work until February. I didn't begrudge this, however, as I'd been working full-time since I graduated from my master's degree in 2008. It was a rare luxury to have the means to choose not to work for a short while, and a golden opportunity to be unencumbered by working life with all the time and energy to reach out to young women I otherwise couldn't have due to our schedules previously not aligning. I liked pretending to myself I was working for SGI and enjoyed that my full-time work schedule now comprised solely of catching up with as many young women as I could and attending all my meetings. As I was no longer working in February and potentially looking down the barrel of another 6 months of unemployment with a mortgage to pay, I set myself to finding some locum casual work for the interim. I managed to secure work just as the coronavirus was designated a pandemic crisis by the WHO, so employment was now off the table as my employers made the decision to cease operations. At the same time, all SGI meetings were suspended, so I had no activities to busy myself with either. No longer having the distraction of work nor SGI activities to attend, living alone and not being allowed to visit others, I was left to wonder, what does the practice actually mean and look like if I can't attend meetings? And what does it mean to be a leader now that I cannot home visit members? It made me appreciate how fortunate we have been thus so far to have experienced the practice with an SGI center and an organization with so many different activities. But had this constant busyness of attending lots of meetings perhaps afforded me a false sense of practicing and faith? Chanting alone became an onerous task. Without the clarity and purpose of preparing to attend a meeting and the discipline of chanting with others before the meeting starts. There was no longer a process preceding or following the chanting. It was so hard to focus, and after sitting there for half an hour, it was only the final minutes that felt like quality, and only if I chided, I don't know that word, myself to make the last minute count, at least. I'll even sheepishly admit that I caught myself picking up the tea light candle to swirl the wax around so it melts more evenly, and pulling out 2 sticks of incense to use as chopsticks to maneuver the pieces to burn more neatly and parallel. It was no surprise then that I found I did not feel in the least bit encouraged or motivated by the time I finished. Frustrated, I was reflecting on why chanting was not renewing me as it used to, when it occurred to me that I was putting the cart before the horse. I assumed that merely by chanting I would immediately feel better afterwards, when in fact my attitude before I even opened the Butsudan doors was what really determined the effect of my prayer. President Ikeda explains, a person's attitude in doing Gongyo reveals itself in how that person lives. A person whose Gongyo is weak will lack vital energy and will lapse inevitably into a feeble way of living. If you do Gongyo only as if it were a chore or out of a sense of obligation, it will be hard for you to feel joy in your faith. Therefore, let's encourage one another to do a refreshing and rhythmical Gongyo like a mythical white flying horse galloping through the sky. Together, let's aim to do a superb, powerful Gongyo each day, one that will move the entire universe and is infused with our earnest prayers. I now spend a good moment as I sit down before the Gohonzon with my hands on the doors of the Butsudan, examining and deciding first what my attitude and determination for my prayer is, and then I open the Butsudan and start. I think I will make this a permanent part of my practice from now onwards. Receiving the indigo in my mailbox was such a delightful beacon of hope. Thank you so much to the staff of SGI and members who volunteer behind the scenes to make this possible every month. Studying the Gosho, the Great Battle in Indigo, I was so moved by the Daishonin spirit to encourage the lay nun Mayochi that he would use every spare inch of paper and write even into the margins. It made me question myself, have I used every last gigabyte of data to reach out to others? This made me feel so guilty that relative to the Daishonin who was exiled without basic amenities, here I was in lockdown with water, gas, electricity, and internet. And what had I been doing with my resources? However, as I was ruminating on this during my chanting, I realized that this would not be what our mentors would want, for us to compare ourselves to other leaders or members and use their example to guilt ourselves into action. Rather, a more appropriate and encouraging question for me to be, how can I use every last gigabyte of data to reach out to others in my own unique expression? I discovered that the lead singer of one of my favorite bands was playing music and singing live from his home in Chicago on Facebook every day at 10 a.m. How heartwarming to see people lending their talents freely to encourage others in this time. It made me think of when Daisaku Ikeda was forced to step down from presidency and was prohibited from speaking with members. Still, his desire to encourage members was indomitable, and he found ways to do so non-verbally by playing piano for them. Inspired, I also want to do my part to encourage my family and friends to stay at home and contribute to the pool of entertainment for those stuck at home. So I recorded some videos playing my guitar and singing, and even a comedic workout routine involving my lovable and patient cat, Bear, for weighted squats. Even if I was not of a professional standard, if it at least made one person laugh or brought joy to another, it would be entirely worthwhile. I am also grateful that technology has allowed us to enact and receive care so easily. I contacted each of the members in my group who all individually and unequivocally desire desired to continue our usual rhythm of small group meetings, albeit virtually. In conjunction with the other SGI activities that have now also resumed in online format, frequent daily video calls and phone calls have also meant that I can remain socially distant but not spiritually disconnected, so I am never truly alone even while I'm living alone. President Ikeda writes that while it is important to win, it's even more important to remain undefeated no matter what happens. We are only limited by our circumstances insofar as we rely on our minds to contrive a way forward. If instead we decide our attitude as we sit down to open our Butsudan and then imbue our life force with our chanting, determining to live based on this attitude and prayer, then quite naturally the means to do so manifest creatively in ways we hadn't even imagined. In this time, when we no longer have our physical format for living and practicing, it is such a timely and precious moment to reflect on what the essence of our individual practice is and to choose how we want to live the rest of our lives. I hope you too will enjoy the process of self-discovery and self-mastery based on faith. Good luck.
Thank you, Chloe, for, okay, I have to unmute myself. Okay, I thank Chloe for reading this wonderful experience for us. And the reason why I chose this experience is because I was also encouraged by this member's spirit. All right? And instead of feeling sad and aggravated and then unhappy, she started to chant, and then she started to reach out and help others. And I was so touched when she said, if we can make one person laugh, that everything is so meaningful. And also she said, our attitude and determination before or when we chant is most important. As the Australians say, there is chanting and there is chanting. You can say, I chant and chant and chant. Why is nothing happening? It's because your attitude. I mean, do you really trust Go Hwanson? Do you have faith? Are you determined to overcome your situation? All this will take into account into the results that you will have with your practice. Now, the reason why I asked Chloe, the sweet Chloe, to read this article is twofold. Number one, I want to show off my lovely little Chloe. No, that's a joke. No, I want to encourage her to participate in our meeting and to contribute to Kosen Rufu. This is how I encourage my younger generations. And number two, I want to share with you what Chloe had gone through in the past 3 years. 3 years ago, she had come across a major depression when she was studying in Vancouver. It was so bad that she locked herself up in her room for 3 days without going out, and she could not sleep. She tried to punish herself not eating. And at that time, I got the news from her brother, Ryan, and I was in Toronto. So immediately I flew to Vancouver, and I saw the situation and knew that this could not go on. So I asked her to resign from her university and brought her over to Australia, to Sydney, so we can care for her. And initially, she did not believe in chanting. She didn't dare telling me, She told my son, Kevin, that chanting doesn't work. But still, we try our best to encourage her and so forth. And then, I think a couple of years ago, she started to live with me. And then I always encourage her to chant before she studied, but I don't know whether she listened. But one day, she told me that she's got a project and she's got only 60%. All right? And she was so unhappy because she had got very high expectations of herself. So she was so unhappy about her results that she started to chant and chant and chant. And right after that, she got 90% in her assignments. And now she gets distinction and high distinction in her studies. And she is now working part-time in a boutique, and she's doing work placement, and she's doing her studies. And despite of all these engagements, she's doing very well in her schoolwork, always getting distinctions. And yesterday, she told me that she did a project for her placement on the subject of public housing. I cannot remember the exact detail. It was to be presented to the parliament. And then she did such a great job that the boss at her placement said that she will put Chloe's name as a co-author of this project. Now, this project is going to be sent to Parliament, and Parliament members will see Chloe's name. And this will open up a new career path for her. So and now she has totally changed. She's now very happy, very pretty, and she's capable and intelligent. And I'm so proud of her change. It's because my effort in encouraging her when she's with me is very, very strong. And I think she can also feel what I'm doing, and then the influence got onto her too. Okay, so after reading all these experiences and talking about all these experiences, I also want to share with you another wonderful experience of a Malaysian member. She's 67 years old. And I think a couple of weeks ago, she was diagnosed with COVID-19, positive. And incredibly, I was told that she did not have any symptoms. She's been practicing 40 years. And with a member of this age, normally if you get COVID, it's very dangerous and life-threatening. But she did not have any symptoms. So this is the blessing of her faith and her practice indeed. Now, going back to myself, as far as I'm concerned, because of this pandemic, all SGI activities came to a halt, only carrying online meetings and lectures. Initially, during the lockdown, I felt very bored and slightly unhappy, and my chanting was absent-minded and weak. And I was not very happy. Normally, I'm very happy, but at that time, I feel so bored that I was not happy. And then after chanting, I realized my condition. Then I started to change my attitude and chanted to do things meaningful so I don't waste my time in my life. Very quickly, a member suggested I hold an online meeting to share my learning and experience about our Buddhism with other members. So I took her advice and started to hold first a Chinese meeting and then English meeting on Saturdays of every month. Because of that, I was able to connect with members and friends from all over the world and meet friends from Toronto, Vancouver, England, whom I have not seen for years, and I was so glad to be able to connect with them again. It has all become very meaningful and satisfying, knowing that I can encourage so many members, because a lot of new members come to me and ask me to share with them the Buddhist practice and the meeting. And I've come across and known a lot of new members from Malaysia and Singapore. And also, because of this technology, I'm able to join all the online meetings from all over the world if ever I get the notice, including the UK, Canada, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Australia. Sometimes I would be attending 3 meetings per day. I was able to meet with a lot of new members online and was able to exchange encouragements and dialogue. And my son Kevin has also started to hold a weekly chanting meeting on the Tuesdays to win over this pandemic and for the well-being and happiness of everyone. Now, without this change in the current situation, the locking down and the stopping of all the SGI facial activities, I would never be able to connect with so many members and have the benefit of attending meetings and learn from members all over the world. To this effect, I must say that I'm able to create value out of this difficult situation. Sometimes I was talking to encouraging members from 3 p.m. in the afternoon until 11 p.m. And Chloe asked me, "Are you not tired?" And then strangely, I was not tired. because I felt very fulfilled. And to me, this is a way of changing poison into medicine, and I have created value in the pandemic crisis. Thank you very much.